Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Tom's Corner, where you can hear the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Our topic today is one that I think you're going to find very interesting. Can one person make a difference in your life? Good question. Before we get into this, I was just the other day watching on, I don't know, one of the YouTube channels or whatever it is, they showed movies. And there was a movie that kind of interested me. And it was about Joan of Arc. And before we get into this, we'll talk about Joan a little bit. Joan felt she was commissioned by God. Went to the king, gathered up an army, and literally drove the English out of France. So that's where one woman literally made a difference. Okay, I'm not going to get into her story, but I found it very interesting. All right, let's go on. Now, most know the story of Esther, the virgin, Mordecai, the good guy, Haman, the bad guy. Haman hated Mordecai, the Jew, because he would not give a bow unto him as he passed by. Because, see, reference to Haman, Haman thought he was close enough to the king that everybody ought to kiss his ring. Like we find a lot of people today, they think they're so great that every time you see them, you need to bow and kiss their ring. But see, Mordecai knew better than that. He knew the man's heart. Okay, as he passed by, and he thought because he was tight with the king, people should give him the respect when he passed by. Now, chapter 2 and verse 7 states, and he brought up Hadashah, I hope that's the way to pronounce it, or Shah. This is the true name of Esther. I know a lot of you don't know that. This was Esther's true name. And it goes on to say his uncle's daughter. That's who she was, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. And the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took her for his own daughter. Now Mordecai was carried away along with other Jewish people under the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. And then you had another king coming after. Now let's go on. Esther, chapter 2, verse 8. So it came to pass when the king's commandment and decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan, the palace, to the custody of Hegai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Hegai, keeper of the women. I guess this is reference to where he had many wives, and these were concubines that he had certain individuals watch over the women and take care of them. Now, I'm going to give an assumption, a little sidebar on this. These individuals like Hegai, and there's another individual also, you would not place a man over the women unless he was a eunuch. You understand what I'm saying? There ain't no way in the world you put that guy in that harem. So I'm basically, I believe I'm a 99.5% right on this. These individuals were actually eunuchs that guarded over the women, took care of them. And in 12 it states this, now when every maid's turn was come to go into the king, Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner. I want you to listen to this very carefully. Every maid's turn was come to go into the king. Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months now, according to the manner of the women. This was a manner that he decreed this had to be done. For so were the days of their reference to the purification accomplished, to wit, 6 months with oil of mirth, and 6 months with sweet odors, and with other things for the purifying of the women. So in other words, they all went through this process. All right, now 13 says this. Now note this. A lot of times we will state that she did all this purification and then she went into the king and she was so sweet smelling and so being in oils all this time that he couldn't resist. No, I'm not saying that. That never happened. She was a part of all of them that did this ritual. Then at periodic times, each one would come into the king. Now, 13. Then thus came every maiden unto the king. You understand what I'm saying? Whatsoever she desired, get this, she desired was given her to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house. So what that's stating is, if she was going to go to the king's house, she could ask for pearls. She could ask for fancy bracelets, almost gold finger, plaited things for her hair. All this was in order that when she came before the king, she would present herself as beautiful as she could do. Okay? She didn't ask for a car, and she didn't ask for an airplane, and she didn't ask for this, she didn't ask for that. She couldn't do that. According to what I just read, she could ask for anything that would further her beauty as she was able to come when the king called her. Now, 14. In the evenings she went, and on the morrow she returned into the second house of the women to the custody of Shaashgaz, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. There's another name that I'm referring to, very possibly. He was a eunuch. Okay, he took care of the concubines. Now she came into the king no more. Now get this. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned in the second house of the women to the custody of Shaashgaz, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She had to come into him eventually, and she did so. And she came into the king no more, except the king delighted in her, except the king delighted her. He wanted her. That's the only time that she was allowed to come to the king, and that she were called by name. Had to call her by name and bring her forth, okay? So in other words, I don't know how many of the women that he had there, but each one he had put it in plain English. She had called him, he had called at different times to his chambers, okay? And I'll stop on that one. Let's go on. And when the turn of Esther and the daughter of Abishai, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king, she required nothing but what Hegai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. Now you understand what I'm saying? Who appointed what to her? Nothing but what was appointed by the individual that was guardian over her, okay, the eunuch. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all of them that looked upon her. She apparently was a very beautiful woman. We're talking about when the king called her to him, whether it be they had a feast for something, she was the one that was called at this particular time, and it couldn't have been anything else. And all the people there thought she was very beautiful. 16. So Esther was taken unto the king Ahasuerus into his house royal, okay? In other words, he favored her, so he brought her closer instead of the other house. He brought her into his royal house, or the kingdom. Now, 17 says this, and the king loved Esther above all the women, okay? And she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins. Do you hear what I'm saying? Above all the virgins, this was the one that he really liked. All right, so that he set the royal crown upon her head. Get this. And he made her queen. Wow, can you believe? Out of all them women, this is the one that he made her queen. Now get this. there was a king prior, a queen prior, but he took the crown from her. Okay? Okay, and here it is. So that he set the royal crown up on her head, made her queen instead of Vashta. Vashta was the one that was originally the queen. So he took that crown, placed it on Esther's head. 19. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. Okay, there was another trip around that he was starting to bring all the women, all the virgins and things, or all the women that in his concubine unto him, and surely one at a time. All right, now 20. Esther had not yet showed her kindred nor her people. She didn't say anything about that she was Jewish, as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. I believe here it was more or less kind of keep quiet on that right now. Because see, people persecuted Jews no matter what. They've done it all the way down through history. And if you stood up and said, that's a Jew, well, look what they're doing today. We never thought there'd be that much prejudice. But look at what's happened in America. All of a sudden they're raising up. They're condemning Jews. They're blaming Jews. They say, kill the Jews, get rid of the Jews. And this is expected because they've done it through the centuries. That's not new. All right, now number 4 says this. Now it came to pass when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman. Now this is Mordecai's at the gate, okay? Now, usually the wise would place themselves at the gate. They would debate issues, talk this, talk that, like men would do, especially older men. Came past daily, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman. Remember Haman? Yeah, he was a bad guy. To see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. Mordecai finally told them that he was a Jew. Okay, now let's go on. In 8 it says this. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, I may get it wrong, forgive me of that. I'm not the fluent individual in English. There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people. Neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. In other words, he was speaking bad about them, said they're useless people, and all they're doing is bad-mouthing you, and they're not doing any good in all these kingdoms. And believe me, if you go back into Esther, you'll find out how many kingdoms that he was the governorship over a lot of lands. And there were a lot of Jews placed in diverse places. And what he was doing, bad-mouthing. Now let's find out what he was going to do and why he did it. 11, and the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee, the people also, to do with them as it seems the good to thee. In other words, you feel good about that and everything. Whatever you want to do to them people, you can do it. I'll give you silver, help you prolong it, and do whatever you're going to do. More or less, what he knew is he was going to kill him. And so the king gave him silver, okay? Esther 4:1. When Mordecai perceived all that was done. Now, the reason Haman did it was because he hated who? Who did he hate? He hated Mordecai. He hated him so bad, he wanted all the Jews killed. All right, let's go on. 11. And the king said unto Haman, silver is given to thee, okay? We know that, Esther 4:1. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes. What's renter? He didn't take them out and said, could you rent my clothes? Could you? I'll take $5. You can have it for 2 days. No, rent means he ripped his clothes off. When you're in, this is what they did back then to show an emergency situation or a great devastation. They would rip their clothes asunder. They would weep, they would howl. All right, and Mordecai perceived all that was done. Mordecai rent his clothes and put on what? He put on sackcloth with ashes. Now, that's the first time I've ever heard where he said, usually say cloth, they have a combination of sackcloth, then they say ashes. But in this particular passage there, he put on sackcloth with ashes. Throwed ashes all over the sackcloth he was on. Sackcloth is a representation of humility. And the ashes is of a devastation, complete sorrow. Okay? And he went out in the midst of the city. He went right in the city. And he cried with a loud and a bitter cry. He was weeping. He was howling because he knew what was coming. Now, let's go on. It seems that in verse 11 that Esther was making excuses for not going to the king or behalf of the Jews. She tried to hide herself. Oh, you didn't know that. Go back and read it for yourself. She didn't want to get part of that, you know. Okay, now Mordecai stated in verse 14 to Esther, this, who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Now listen, here we go down. 16. Go gather together all the Jews. In other words, what happened here where Mordecai finally spoke to Esther, who knoweth whether thou art to come to the kingdom for such a time as. In other words, do you think maybe God had placed you in a position that the king loved you and you alone are the only one that can stand up and save us? Now remember I talked about Joan of Arc? Joan of Arc did everything she could to save her people. Later the king sold her out and sold her to the, according to the movie, to the people in the north were English. Now, you think about this. One woman had the ability and power that was ordained in that position to save the Jewish nation. So a lot of times we as individuals think, I'm a worthless individual. You're not worthless. There's a job that you have to do. Now the question is, will you do the calling that God's given you to do? You don't know how many lives are going to be saved, but if God's dealing with you, stand up, believe it, go forth in faith, and honor God and do the things you're supposed to do. Don't backtrack and don't hide. All right. Now, here's what it said. Gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan. That's that province she was in. And fast ye for me. Neither eat nor drink 3 days, nights or day. You understand what I'm saying? 3 days, night or day. No water, no food. You can go through the Bible and find out anytime there's a great catastrophe coming, in order to cry out for mercy to God to save them, this is the fast that they do. Go through the whole Bible and you will find they knew that. That's a proclamation that she gave to them. You do this. Why? Because she was going to have to present herself to the king. And unless the king put the rod out and bid her come and called her name, she was dead. That's it. She was dead. Now, I also and my maidens will fast likewise. That's what she said. My maidens will take care of me. They're going to fast. I'm going to fast. And so will I go in under the king. And this is what she said. And so she finally come to reality. And so I will go in under the king, which is not according to the law. It was against the law. She was not allowed to come there for the reason I just said. He's the one that calls, not you come before the king. Unless he puts a scepter out, touches a scepter, calls her name, and bids her come. All right, and if I perish, what she said? If I perish, I perish. What'd she say? She said, if I die for my people. I will go. I will not back down from the calling that God's given me. Are you backing down today from the calling that God's given you? God's calling you. You live in this last dispensational time. Do you think you're here to have a big car and a big fancy home, go boating, ski, and have a good... That's not why God called you here. This world means nothing. The things of this world, it tells evaporate. He said, lay your treasures in heaven. It can't rust. It can't dissolve. Everything you're looking at here, if you sit there and look at it long enough, it's deteriorating away. Old cars deteriorate. Houses deteriorate. Okay? And even you deteriorate. If I perish, I perish. Get your mind straight and believe in God and say, Lord, no matter what happens, I'm yours. I go all the way. Now, Haman thought to hang Mordecai on the gallows he had made for him. And his family and all around him agreed this is what you need to do to get rid of him. and had a decree to kill all the Jews. And listen to this, they had the decree already written. All they had to do is take it out, post it up, and that was it for the Jews. Had a decree to kill all the Jews. But his plan backfired on him. The king said to Esther, here's what it said. To Esther, in what is thy petition and what is thy request? See, she came to him without being called, but she stood in the off ground, off the sides where the kings could see her. And the king visually saw her out there. He bid her come. Scepter down, he bid her come. Otherwise, she would have been dead. And he asked, what's your petition? What's your request? And it shall be, listen to this part, and it shall be performed even to half of the kingdom. Now, where have we heard that before? I remember a little story about a woman that danced, and when she asked her mother, John the Baptist beheaded. What did the king or the leader over Judea and Israel, what did he do? I'll give you what? Go back and find out how much he was willing to give up for that woman's dance. And then all of a sudden by his mouth, when the woman came and said, well, this is what we want. We want the head of John the Baptist. He couldn't refuse her. Esther was given power to reverse the decree that Haman had made. He turned it over to her. And she had the signet, the stamp. See, they already had the papers rolled, ready to put up. And when that thing was put up, it wasn't put up yet, but when that thing was put up, all the Jews would die. And here's what she said. Power to reverse the decree Haman had made. Thus he and all those that hated the Jews, what happened to them? They were killed. She reversed the decree and said, kill them. Kill them that hate the Jew, by the Jews. The Jews kill them. So the moral of the story is God usually has someone who stands in the gap for his people. Remember, you could be fighting against the wrong person. If so, then death may come upon you and your house. Go and read the book of Esther for yourself. God bless. I'll see you the next trip.